I was in the hospital for 254 days. And if I if I was in charge of doing it all, there's no way. There's no way we would be able to produce $250,000 in revenue during that time frame and over six figures in profit. So the idea of automation is so critical in order to do that.
Hello, and welcome back, everybody, to the Better Than Rich show. I'm your host, Andrew Biggs, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike Abramowitz. Mike, how are you doing this fine morning?
I'm doing good. I'm excited for this topic. The reason why is because I know this is going to be a part of our masterclass and some of the products that we're going to be offering. And this is going to be a great introduction to individuals who may or may not know about the power of automation.
That's right. Yeah. And if you're listening and you're not familiar at all with automation, or maybe you hear it, thrown around in the marketplace, but don't really understand how to put it into practice with your business, Mike and I's goal here this morning is really to help you break down how to make this really easy, how to understand it, how it, to kind of like, remove the mysticism around how to use automation in your business. Because every single one of you, if you're a business owner in any capacity, whether you own and operate a 7, 8, 9-figure business, or you're a solopreneur out there, just making ends meet for you and your family, this can really free up a lot of your time and make your life so easy. And it really is the key that unlocks a lot of doors for a lot of entrepreneurs that we work with, because sometimes you don't have the money to hire on a staff, right, to handle things. And quite frankly, once you understand the power of automation, you might actually find that an automated tool, right, that someone's created, some sort of software, is actually not only cheaper than hiring a staff, but it's actually more efficient and better, for everybody involved. So, I'm really looking forward to breaking this down to help people understand how to harness the power of automation. And then, hopefully you can take at least one or two of these tips, or one or two of the software tools that we mentioned, and run with them. So with that said, Mike, big picture, walk me through automation from your perspective and how you use it in your business, and we'll kind of bet you catch here today.
And I will say what inspired this topic is yesterday I was on a prospect call. I don't know if you knew this, Andrew. I was on a prospect call and I said how she's starting her coaching business, and she's a nurse but wants to get into this coaching world. And I said, if a client wants to get on your calendar, how do they do that? And she said, well, they fill out a contact form on my website and they'll send me an email. And then once I get the email, I'll respond to them and find a time that works for both of us for us to get on the call. And I was like, OMG, like this is a very archaic way of going about getting a potential client on your schedule. So that is where the inspiration came from, because obviously what I told her is what I'm about to tell you, dear listener, is you should never have to do any work that is easy to automate. So the easy way of what I explained to her and what I'll explain to you is, if you want someone to get on your calendar, there should be no communication. You send them a link. I use Calendly. I love Calendly. There's also Acuity. There's other forms of what you could use, but you put the link on your website, just like we have on Better Than Rich. If someone wants to set up a call with us, they click the little button that says, find a time to talk. Then our availabilities are there. So I told her, you put your availabilities on there. Her availabilities pop up. The user goes ahead and clicks and finds a time. And then it sends an automation sequence, which is, here's the link to join me on Zoom at this time. It will automatically sync with their calendars. They get a reminder, and then you're done. You don't have to respond to an email. They don't have to fill out a contact form. That's all inside of Calendly, which in my opinion is one of the most user-friendly tools to set up appointments. And I think it's a great tool for automation. So that's the number one immediate one that pops up, is avoiding back and forth conversations to arrange an appointment. And realistically, live calls. Like if someone wants a live call with me, I very rarely pick up the cell phone. If someone wants to get a call, I send them my link. It's like, here, just pick a time on my calendar because these are the times I'm available, and then just pick a time. And it just from a simple level. If you only get that, listener, from this show, please, from this episode, go create a Calendly account and start using that to protect your time. Well,
Yeah, and
yeah.
just to help people understand, how much do we pay for Calendly every month?
I mean, there's a free version that my sales reps use. They use the
Hmm.
free version, but we do the $8 one or the
Hmm.
$12 one, maybe
Right.
15 at most.
So it's like cheaper than a trip to Chipotle, right? A month, and you get, a powerful tool that saves you hours and hours of your time. And you got to ask yourself, how much is my time worth, right? Is it worth more than $12? Like, even if it saved you 1 hour, right? Is your time worth more than $12 an hour? If you're listening to this podcast, I would certainly hope so, right? And so, and if you don't believe your time is worth more than $12 an hour, we have bigger problems. You got to go back and listen to some mindset episodes, because nobody should be thinking, "Oh, I'm worth $12 an hour," even if you're making $12 an hour right now. So understand, like, you need to be thinking, okay, my time's worth $50 an hour, $100 an hour, 150, 200, 500, $1,000 an hour. Okay. And so if I'm sitting there sending emails back and forth trying to find a time, and then it was like, oh, we found a time, but actually turns out that they're in a different time zone, and you gotta email them back. It's like, how many times have these things happened where it's just a complete waste of your time? It's a negative user experience. A lot of times that doesn't end up formulating, or at the very least, what's happening is you're kind of onboarding them in this sloppy way, and that signals like that the rest of your experience working with you is going to be sloppy. So when we use the power of automation, all these things go away. And Mike gave a very concrete example, right? And I want to kind of take a step back and also look at the macro level perspective of like the mindset of automation, and thinking with like the perspective of, can I automate this, almost as a reflex in your business. That should almost be one of the first questions you ask, right? One of my mentors, as I was getting into the personal growth space, was Rory Vaden, and he has a great company, Brand Builders Group. You can check them out if you're interested in like personal branding and stuff. But what what he talks about in his TED talk, I think it's got 3 or 4 million views at this point. It's called Multiply Your Time. What he talks about is kind of this model where, first off, we should ask, is this task even worth doing, right? So that's the first question: is this task worth doing? Is it worth building, something like this out, or is this a task that's necessary in the business? Um, and if not, we can eliminate it, right? Because so if we can eliminate a task because it's redundant, or it doesn't make any sense to be spending time, for anybody to be spending time building this out, then great, we're going to be able to do step one, and that's eliminate some tasks, right? But ideally, then you're left with the tasks that are essential to your business operating at a high level. So the next question you want to ask, if you can't eliminate it, is, can I automate it? So eliminate, then automate. And the reason we want to go to automate first is because it's the least amount of effort. Sometimes there's like an initial setup cost, quote unquote, and usually that cost is mostly your time to set up the automation. But once it's set up, it runs forever. It never breaks. There's never a problem. No one ever accidentally clicks the wrong link, because everything is completely run, through software and automation, and you're harnessing the power of the world that we live in, which is mostly the power of softwares. And so that's something like, if you don't have like a suite of softwares, and you're a small business owner, even if it's like a handful, if you don't have at least 5 to 10 softwares you're using on a daily basis in your business, you're probably doing it wrong. You probably are living in this archaic world that Mike referenced at the start of this episode. So that's the next question: is, can I automate it? And then the last question is, can I delegate it if I can't automate it? There may be some tasks that ultimately you can't automate, or you find that maybe it is better to delegate. But I'm always looking, and what I find more and more often, Mike, and I'll kick it back to you here, is I find that if I simplify things enough, almost everything can be automated, and that's getting to some really powerful places, right? Because you can make it look as if all of these things are being done by human beings, and that's a really powerful resource, right? So, Mike, what's coming up for you?
And to that last point is, potentially efficiencies might go down. Yes, because everything is like automated. However, if profitability goes up, well, it's something to explore, because if you're paying for, I'll use a personal example. If we pay someone to run interviews, like a human person to run the interview, to recruit to recruit students, I pay that individual $350 a week plus bonuses. I end up paying her close to $2,000 a month. Now, what is that efficiency on the $2,000 a month? Well, let's think about it, and let's, we map out the efficiency. Now, if I remove the $2,000 expense and instead it was like a webinar type of setup where individuals just hop in at any point in time, they go through and watch videos, and then we have a human just interview them afterwards and not the initial interview, maybe that would save me $1,500 a month. So I would be a net positive of $1,500 there, but maybe the efficiencies go down a little bit because it's not like a human, it's actually a video. Maybe people could easily hop off, but then we could compare and see, well, maybe it's still a net profit. Now, granted, it takes away a job from someone, but that means I could put that person into a different place that produces more revenue for the business. So this idea of automation, almost automating, being able to automate almost anything, is the way I think, because I want time back. I want time back, and I also want profitability. And I want to put humans into the most profitable places. So if we can automate something for 10 or 12 or 15 or $20 an hour, and I could put someone who I'm paying 25, 30, 35, $40 an hour, I want to put that person into work that's going to produce more results for the business, and automate the things that are more of the lower wage, and delegate what I can to virtual assistants. And you could go back to that episode. One thing that you mentioned about the eliminate that resonated with me. There's a great book called The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss talks about in the book how he was able to eliminate certain things from his life, specifically incoming calls and emails, which I alluded to. And the way he was able to eliminate those is because he eliminated incoming calls because of how he set up his calendar and how he set up his schedule, saying these are the only blocks of times I'm doing live phone calls. And he almost set up like an office hours, like a professor, where it's like, this is the only time available, and communicated that to people. And then as far as his emails, he started having his VA check his email for him, and having auto responders on his email, letting people know that's like, hey, I might not get back to you right away. So it directed them to not email him as much. So he didn't have to respond to that many emails. So he set up his life in a way where he didn't have to respond to these things. So essentially he eliminated them by creating a different infrastructure and a model of communication for people in his life. I thought it was a really profound way of eliminating things with intentionality. So that was just one thing that stood up for me. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
I'll
Yeah,
kick
I
it
mean,
to
if you
you.
haven't read the 4-Hour Work Week, like you gotta pick that up, right? Because the mindset, and I remember listening to an old manager of mine be like, I can't believe that this is what the next generation wants. They want a 4-hour work week. Yeah, like, who do they think they are? And I remember hearing some of these thinking. Um, I think the way that you want to look at that is not necessarily that you're only working 4 hours, right? But it's like you're putting your time where it's most valuable is really the lesson there. It's almost like if I wanted to work 4 hours this week, I could. That's really what it is, right? Because here at Better the Rich, we believe you have a mission and a purpose. And if you're only spending 4 hours a week every single week working on your purpose, it's probably not your purpose. You're not using it as like this North Star to guide you and orient you in life the way you probably should. But also, there's some weeks where I want to work 4 hours, and we should be able to take advantage of that. So that's really what I recommend in terms of your interpretation of that book. And once you read it, it'll make a ton of sense. So the this concept around automation, it's like, well, what the way we want to think about this, and we've talked about this in the systemization episode 7. But you want to be thinking about what's the process, right, of how something goes through, and you almost want to reverse engineer this really cool design. And again, this is kind of our specialty, is like reverse engineering the user experience. So once you think about where do I want to take this person, what's the journey I want to take them on, then we can kind of step by step say, okay, well, this is what they need at this stage, this is what they need here, this is what they need in the transition between once they book the call to showing up to the call, and once they after they have the call, this is what I want to send them. And we can build that out right? Using the power of softwares. Whether it's, just list off some of the ones I have listed here, but it's like, Calendly, Acuity, Zapier, Monday.com, Trello, Asana. You can look at CRMs, right? Where you can be sending messaging like HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, Salesforce. I'm using close.com for salespeople. There's so many different, automations we can put people through. If you're in sales and you want to use playbooks, or you want to use outreach.com, like these are different things that are available. And what's cool is it's all if then, right? So again, thinking logically, because part of this might be like, wow, you just listed a bunch of software. It's like, where do I even start? Well, the first place to start is, you know, where would you want to take someone in an ideal world, right? And then if this happened, then I want to do that. So in Mike's example, let's say someone comes up for the interview with him and his team, and there's almost two tracks that will split, right? So they're scheduled for the interview, but then there's two tracks. They might show to that interview, or they might not show to the interview. If they don't show to the interview, they're going to get a certain sequence, right, to maybe re-engage them, right? Or if they're a super big pain in the ass, to say, hey, you're no longer qualified to interview with us, and here's why, because you've haven't even responded to these emails and didn't show up for your interview time. So if they did show the interview, then there's also multiple tracks, right? Were they accepted for the interview? Were they not? Were they qualified for the interview or not? And all of these are basically creating what's called a flow chart, right? And you can map out different flow charts. I really like using like a Canva, or a tool like Figma or something like that, where you can kind of visualize what this flow chart looks like. I also, whenever Mike and I do our jam sessions, we usually have a big whiteboard, and we're just like, scribbling all over, and it doesn't make sense to anyone else but us. But the what it's doing is it's walking you through that journey from A to Z. And there's probably 15 different steps, right, to take someone from never having heard of you to, a raving fan. Maybe there's even 25 steps, who knows? But you need to know what are those steps, and let's automate as many as possible. Mike, what's coming up for you?
Yeah, and this is what we did in my direct sales business for that reason. Because I was in the hospital for 254 days, and if I was in charge of doing it all, there's no way we would be able to produce $250,000 in revenue during that time frame, and over six figures in profit. So the idea of automation is so critical in order to do that. So I'll walk through real quick, just what I did and put into place, my version of that flow chart of just walking through the user experience. So you listener, I'd like for you to think about, okay, how do you apply this to your business? So applicant is interested. They go to the website, they fill out a very short form. It's name, phone number, email address, and who sent you to this website. Like, how'd you hear about this website? They click a button, and that takes them to a Calendly. The Calendly then gives them a time. Here, pick a time to arrange a meeting to meet with a manager, so you can get all your questions answered, and we could get our questions answered. So you can get all your information, we could get our information, right? They find a time, click the button, arrange a time. There's a couple of questions that they answer there. Those are qualifiers. So that way, we know who could potentially be a good candidate and who might not. So there's the qualifiers on Calendly. Arrange the time. Boom, they click that button. Once they click that button, that triggers on Zapier. So Zapier now knows this person has an appointment. Now that they have an appointment, that triggers a couple of sequences. Number one, it triggers an email.
And Mike, what's Zapier? Like, I know we mentioned it, but what is the tool?
Zapier's,
What does it really do?
It's like the if then. That's essentially what it is. It's the tool that says, if this happens, then trigger something else to happen. So if someone arranges a time on Calendly, then send them an email and send them a text message. So that's essentially what Zapier does. Zapier communicates with these all these different technologies. So it's so instead of a human having to, let me send them an email now and let me send them a text, Zapier just acts as the human that says, all right, boom, since this happened, I'll send them an email, I'll send them a text. So that's my way of interpreting what Zapier does. It's a communication amongst the other technologies.
Right. So just to consolidate that for you listeners. So basically what Zapier does is it connects all these different softwares together, right? So Calendly can talk to your Gmail, can talk to your texting base, can talk to your CRM. And it can basically just do actions inside each of one of those tools based upon whatever is coming in, that what's called the trigger, right? So we have a trigger, and then we have, the steps that follow the trigger. And quite frankly, depending on how many zaps you want to build and how much you want to spend on it, typically,
I spend
on our
160 a
account,
month. I spend
yeah,
160 a month. We spend 160 a month on that as a CFO.
and that's like 1,000. Like how many thousands of actions is that?
Oh,
It's like
it's
it's
like
like
20. Yeah, it's like 20,000 or 30,000 or more. Like
yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah. So
Maybe a
there's like
hundred.
a
I think
lot of
I maybe I'm up to 100,000 now at this point. I
yeah.
don't know.
There's been some months where it's been pretty wild, and so like each one of those steps is an action, right? And so, but what they do is they kind of bill you, but there's like you get massive discounts if you go up, but you can get started for free. I think they even have a free trial, and then it's like $20 a month to start, right? If you really just need this for a handful of things. So we really do recommend that that's one of the softwares you zoom in on, and we're even going to be putting on a master class on how to walk people through this, because sometimes people get confused. Just how to learn this, but once you learn it, it really does open up a lot of doors. Sorry to cut you off there, Mike.
No, it's perfect.
So we can actually kind of just help people gain more scaffolding and context around this, but. So you're saying once they accept the invite on Calendly, Zapier connects them, and then they get the
So
email
now they're
sequence.
going to
So
get
what
into a
comes next?
sequence of an email and a text message. So because our CRM that our company uses is very archaic, it's not one of the companies that are on Zapier,
And
but a
that's not
lot of
that's something you don't have a choice of. Is that correct?
it's not in my
Okay.
control.
Okay.
So a lot of you that are listening, your CRM might be one of those. So ideally, it would create a profile. So it would take the information from Calendly, and Zapier can then create a profile onto your CRM platform. So when a client books up a call with me on Calendly, it creates a profile for them on Active Campaign. If a client books up with Andrew, it creates a profile for them on Active Campaign. So ideally, it creates a profile in your CRM, and then it also triggers a confirmation email, a reminder email sequence, a confirmation text, and a reminder text sequence. Now, all of those funnel towards Zoom, towards our meeting. So now, once they get onto Zoom, that's like the end of that first part of the flow chart. So the whole model of what I just said is the flow of interested applicant to meeting. Then now there's the next point of contact. The next point of contact is meeting. So the next question is, what happens from meeting until next point of contact? If qualified and good candidate, then. If non-qualified, not good candidate, then. And that triggers the next section of that flow chart. So then you can go through the exact same steps I just went through. What is next? What could be automated? What could be delegated? And frankly, what could be eliminated from that process? And you do by doing that for every step of the user journey of their points of contact, it will absolutely dramatically show you and reveal how much can be automated without you having to click a button and it being done with technology.
Yeah. Awesome. And again, if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I don't recruit that many people, I recruit people here and there, but my team is like 3 people. We've been going at this for 3 years. We're a small team. We'll just apply what Mike said to your customer, right? So it's like, what do from the customer's point of view, if someone wants to engage with you, what does it take to apply, to get on your calendar, to learn about your services, right? What does it look like for them to have some sort of like lead gen capture, right? At least kind of have like a lead magnet that then triggers a sequence of emails that maybe tries to encourage them to get on your calendar to learn more. That way they don't just have the free version, but they have the actual real deal that's the real solution to their problem, which is what you do for people. So understanding, the power of automation in a modern world is really, it's almost like an essential skill set for a modern entrepreneur to get beyond, kind of a 6-figure point, and start flirting with, what does it look like to be multi 6 figures, to be 7 figures. And I'm guessing if you're listening, that's part of the journey that you're on, that you're excited about learning about.
Yeah, I think about if you're in financial services or in real estate as an example, you're going
Hmm.
to onboard, maybe you're not mass recruiting, but you onboard a qualified agent or qualified advisor. Well, what do you do with that person? For my friends in the industry, you take them, you're like, all right, you got to learn how to do everything. So just follow me, field train with me, just learn from me. And it's
Shadow
like,
me for for 3 weeks and watch every single
yeah,
one of my appointments, and hopefully you
man,
pick up on something.
exactly. And it's just such an archaic model of training versus,
Hmm.
well, imagine if there was, you just take all of the things that you do, you put it into like a tutorial. Thinkific is what we use for Better Than Rich. You put it into a tutorial, you break it down into a modified course. And what happens is, as soon as this qualified agent or advisor, in order to get on the calendar, or once they set up a meeting to meet with you to go on your field training, it also gives them access to a course for them to go through some modules to learn and how to prep them on how to go field training with you, or how to shadow you. And then after they do their first shadow, then it's like, check, what's next? It gives them access to the next section of the course. Now that you watched your first shadow, these are the next things that you want to learn on how to do this position. So instead of you repeating yourself, so what's the saying? If you find yourself repeating yourself, either record yourself, replace yourself, or there's another R that I can't think of right now. But you get the point. We got to move. We got to think better. We got to move past what we've always done, because there's another way of doing the same thing, and it could save you a tremendous amount of time. We do that with VAs. When we onboard our new VA clients, Biggs and I were getting a little bottlenecked. We're like, shoot, we're the bottleneck of our business. We teach this stuff. So what do we do? Now, when someone clicks submit on their payment, they pay for it. Boom! It triggers an email, and in that email, it gives them access to their private Discord. It gives them access to the Thinkific course. It shows them how to join WhatsApp. We get a trigger on our end. They fill out a Google form. Once they fill out that Google form, we get pinged. Then Hannah, our lead VA, she creates the groups for them, and we have a lot of that delegated. That way, it's all automated from the time they submit payment to the time they could start working with their VA, because we were the bottleneck. We had to do a lot of that originally. And I was like, wait, we got to redesign this thing. And it's very much plug and play. That's what we want for you as well. Anytime you're the bottleneck, get out of the way and use automation and delegation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to maybe address maybe one objection that I hear sometimes around automation, and I'd say maybe the most common one might be, well, does it feel impersonal? Does it feel that maybe we are people can tell, right, that something's automated? And I have some thoughts on that I'll kick it to you, Mike. But it's like, first off, you know if you look at your in email inbox, how many of those emails that you received today do you really think were handwritten directly to you? Uh, and of course, you can kind of tell, right? And is there a little bit of lost efficiency in that because, well, if someone's more likely to pay attention to something that's handwritten to them, sure, right? And maybe in a special case, right? Because someone's really qualified, or you've been pursuing them for a while and you have a relationship built up, and maybe you had a call with them 2 weeks ago. They said they wanted to think about it and you're following up. Yeah, probably don't automate that. Probably write an email, sit down, take the 15 minutes it takes to make that a great email and really win them over with a white glove sort of experience. But most people aren't like that, right? Most people aren't at that they haven't earned that white glove sort of experience yet. And they're kind of in this lead stage, or they're very early on in this process. And the fact of the matter is, when you're very early on in the process, you kind of just need volume, right? Most of the time, unless you're in a very specialized sort of sale where it's like, hey, I close one deal once a quarter, and I have to stalk my prey on LinkedIn and really hone in on who they are, and send them gifts and do a very sort of sophisticated sale for this one client that I'm targeting. If you're more in a mass market where there's a lot of different potential people that you're reaching, you really need volume early on. And so, to Mike's point earlier on decreased efficiency, that might mean some of your percentages at each of the stages go down, but what you lose in efficiency, you gain in your overall efficiency and your overall effectiveness, because there's just no way for you to scale sending handwritten emails to every single one of your prospects. Mike, what comes up for you?
Yeah, and especially if you're in direct sales, you're in network marketing, you're in real estate, you're in financial services, you're in one of these industries where you have essentially two different funnels. You have your internal operations, and then you also have your external clients. So if you're in direct sales, you have your internal sales team, and then you have those salespeople sell a product. If you're in real estate, you have your internal team of agents, but then you also have the clients who are buying and selling those houses. So you have to think about, there's the internal and then there's the external. So what you're saying, Big, some of them, like on the external, you might not have as many clients, or in the internal, you might not have that many agents. But either way, having consistent messaging sent to them keeps you top of mind. So if you're selling houses, as an example, if you want to make sure you're top of mind, you want to have a proper follow up. How are you enjoying your home? You might want to have a proper referral ask. Here, here's how, I'd love for you to give me some referrals or give me some leads. You want to make it as easy as possible for them to give you a lead or referral. How do you do that? Well, you'd probably have it automated. Create an intake form, click this link, enter your friends or your referrals right into this database, and then that automatically uploads to your CRM. And that's an easy way for you to generate referrals with some sort of automation tool for as a follow-up, as a referral tool, but being top of mind. So if if you make a sale, then I want to put a customer through some sort of sequencing that gives them messaging, so I could stay top of mind every, we'll do 30, 3 times in a 90-day period. And then it's like 3 times over the next 120 days. So it's like spread out over the course of however you want to set it up. And that's an example of how you can use automation, messaging. It's not impersonal, it's intelligent
Mm-hmm.
from that
Mm-hmm.
vantage point. But you've already established the rapport. You already established the sale. You already established the connection. So
Right.
there's lots of ways for you to use this.
Right. You almost need to ask yourself, well, what's better? Them getting an automated message, right, that's pre-written, or not getting any message at all. Because the vast majority of your people who are prospects or somehow in your funnel, or disengaged leads, or people in the nurture stage, and quite frankly even your clients sometimes, right, having something get to them that touches their heart, right? Who's ever signed up for like those text message things, and it's just like it sends you something like a thought of the day or something. It's like, that's obviously going out to, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, but you don't care. Like, it's an uplifting text. So, would you rather have not gotten it? And so that's really what you need to be thinking is like, am I top of mind for people? And by the way, if you're not top of mind for people, then someone else is going to be top of mind for them.
Someone else is, yeah.
So if this is a way to stay ahead of the competition. If you are a financial advisor, someone else is a financial advisor that they know too, and if you're not in their ear, there someone else is saying, "Are you really getting this quality of service that you really, think this person should be giving you?" And they're going to start swaying you towards their direction. So no matter what, you know, it's a competitive landscape. Business is a game. If you want to win, let's learn the power of automation and harness it so that we can take you from where you are to where you want to go. We really believe that this is one of the tools that you need in your tool belt. Mike, closing thoughts from you, and then we can send everyone off to have an amazing day.
Yeah, using that as an example, I think about the financial services. How sick would it be, hypothetically, if you had a message where you were able to see your clients' average gains or their net gains for the year every month? Like, this is how they're pacing. And then once a month or once a quarter, you have it automatically sending them, hey, just want to let you know, this is how many, this is what your average gain is for the year so far. Thanks for doing business with us. And it was just automatically sent to every one of your clients. Now you might say, well, Mike, what if they're down? Well, you probably need to do a better job. No, but you probably want to communicate that too. You probably want to have that cue. It's like, if it's in the red, this is the message that's sent. Hey, don't worry. Here's a resource. Give them value. If they're in the black, if they're doing well, it's like, hey, celebration text. This is where you're at. This is what you're doing. Thanks for doing business with us. But either way, I think it's a great way to provide great service, and you don't have to think about it. All you have to do is think about it once set it and forget it. And then you could put it in a sequence that stays top of mind to add value to your clients, add value to your staff. There's endless possibilities with automation, and that's why I'm really pumped for what we're going to be offering at Better Than Rich to teach this, to help with our masterclass and our mini course. And we're going to be helping anyone in these types of businesses that can help you level up from where you are to where you could go. And frankly, I mean, the unspoken right now, the economy is fairly unpredictable. So because of that, we probably want to make sure that you're prepared to over deliver for your customers and over deliver for your staff as we go into some uncertain times that we're gearing up for during the next, as we go to the mid elections, and then we have 2 years until the primaries. I mean, there's typically uncertainty around this time frame, and you want to make sure that you are equipped with your systems, with your automation, and we would love to support you with that if possible. So that's my closing thought.
Absolutely. I mean, if you are like, I would say, I mean, it's been great because I've not been worried about the economy at all, right? Because I know that my business is in my control, right? And so if you're nervous about the economy and you feel like the economy could hurt you, um, you know, you got to change that mindset. Reach out to us. We'll help you out. Because your business should not be reliant on who's in the White House or what the Fed decided to do today or the tax rate changing. Like, you need to have a business that maybe that's marginally improves it or marginally hurts it a little bit, but it shouldn't be like on shaky ground just because of some sort of policy from Washington D.C. So. That's my closing thought. Thank you, Mike, for yours. This has been fun. If you got value from today, be sure to share this with somebody and let them know that you care about them. And because it's one of the best gifts you can give to us, it's one of the best gifts that you can give to them. We truly do appreciate you taking the time to enjoy and engage with us. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And until next week, remember to leave today better than you found it. We'll see you there. Bye.